For the first time in years, I have been able to organize all of my books together in a single space. And while I love the convenience, accessibility, and portability of ebooks, I don't feel the same sense of ownership and history that I do with a physical book. I can grab an old book like one would the hand of an old friend, for comfort, for reassurance, for a presence you know will stay with you. I expect it's a similar sentiment among those who collect records rather than accumulating digital downloads. That owning a thing, holding a thing, displaying a thing, is just as much a part of the experience as reading the thing. To have a spread of stories and ideas saying to all who wander into the room, "This is what I care about." The ability to quickly select a single book, or, let's be honest, a group of books, and send them off with visitors, bring them to friends, or exchange them, finding new things to read. I have unread books, holding the hopes of starting hobbies, learning new ideas, or getting to that classic I've always felt obligated to read. I have books containing stories I genuinely enjoyed, stories I stayed up way too late to finish, stories that I recommend and gift and retell. I have books that I can look back on and realize they changed me, my thinking, and my worldview in subtle and unsubtle ways. I have books that were once meant for school but that I kept with me, that transcended their assigned purpose to hold my mind in their grasp. I have books whose physical existence is just as important as the words they contain. Books from people I love, books which hold memories, and books whose covers I just can't take my eyes off of. I have books I changed, books I wrote in to evoke tricks and battles and wit, the swashbuckling drama of a child's imagination and poor stick figure drawing skills. I have books from my childhood, either taken from the homeschool library, earned from the reading rewards program at my local bookstore, or gifted from parents and others. Though I'd never have understood it at the time, these stories became part of the building blocks of me, stimulating my imagination, changing the way I thought and played, and giving me somewhere to orient my sense of wonder. I carefully paged through the fictional adventures of Sir Ernest Drake and studied his research on creatures that, as far as adults were concerned, didn't exist. I learned dragon script, which I still use to make notes to this day. I wrote stories of what I would do when confronted with a dragon, charming it with my earnest sincerity and love of nature. I solved riddles, and, more often, read the answers to riddles that were written in the upside-down portion of the pop-up paper. I stayed up late trying to solve mysteries with the world's most famous detective, trying to understand a strange story of dogs and families and death before I had any business picking up that kind of book. I burned through these stories, wanted to know everything about them, wanted to write something that would so excite my desire to uncover and deduce and understand, rolled up in cleverness and wit and masterful wielding of scraps of information and the people who would give them to me. I read the stories of a boy wizard, watched a world of magic and wonder revealed, the fight for justice among friends and loved ones, a found family built from bonds whose strength exceeded those of death and darkness. I realized others cared about this boy and his friends as much as I did. I listened to their songs, watched their videos, shared their stories, wrote my own. I participated in something that, despite also being a worldwide sensation, was, first and foremost, a girl sitting alone in a room, turning pages faster and faster, slowly realizing she was holding something truly wonderful. I heard that the one guy who made videos with his brother also wrote books, and they were books that resonated with me. They made me feel less alone by offering me stories, and they made me be less alone by sharing these stories with others, desperately buying new copies to give away to anyone who would take them, diligently annotating some in an attempt to express the love for the words contained within. I love taking a collection of concepts and studies and thoughts and marking them up, noting what speaks to me, living in the book in a permanent way that makes room for all who come to it. It's like staying in someone's home, with the history, personality, and story, rather than a sterile hotel room, occupied, but never truly lived in. I love books that have been thus lived in by other people, professors, friends, even strangers. I love the quick scribbles of author signatures from books I've pre-ordered, found in bookstores, or shoved into the hands of the author myself. Even my current collection is incomplete, as many of the books that are most important to me are those I've shared with friends. But I, too, have gathered many borrowed books of my own, buried in forgotten promises of a quick return. I feel as though I have, purely by authentically living my life, gradually accumulated a cross-section of me, of what I loved, of what I read vicariously, what stories compel me, and what words and places and ideas have captured my mind and imagination. They say what I care about and what I desperately want to understand more of. They tell you where I came from, the foundation of my thinking and being. They tell you where I'm going, or at least where I want to go. This ever-changing, always growing collection of the books I have received, bought, read, and loved, they tell their individual stories, but collectively tell a part of the story of me.